Would you guys be upset if, after all this time, you found out that Classic Plus does not exist and never existed? Because there's some things coming out, and I have heard from what I would consider reliable sources that Classic Plus just doesn't exist. And it's something that nobody is going to see coming. And I'll be honest, I don't really know how to feel about it, because I feel like since Season of Discovery, we've kind of sat here, all of us, especially the creator scene, and really drummed up what we would consider to be like a perfect Classic Plus, and like what the community itself wants to see. And take all this with a grain of salt, right? I'm not in talks with Blizzard, I'm not NDA'd or anything like that, but I have heard from multiple reliable sources and things that I've seen where I feel like I don't know. I feel like I kind of believe this. And I don't know if you guys have seen Kargaz's video that he put out yesterday. But what I have heard lines up pretty well with everything, you know, he said in that video. So I'm wondering if maybe we have heard the same things, or you know, I don't know. I feel like this is kind of a mixed bag for me, because there's some things that, if true, I definitely do like, but there's some major things that I feel like are really going to take a lot of people by surprise, and I'm not too sure how I feel about it. But if I stepped back and looked at it from Blizzard's perspective, to be completely honest, if all of this is true, I'll give you an example of one of the things being graphics, you know, more retail-y. I do feel like from Blizzard's point of view, that does make sense, right? How can they sell development on a game with 22-year-old graphics on an older engine? You know, if they're going to put that much development time into something, it needs to reach a more broad audience, right? And we could look at it as, you know, from a massive company standpoint, are they going to design this game for, you know, let's say 300 to 500K classic players, or are they going to design this for, you know, the masses and try and appeal to a way broader audience, or even some of the retail audience when The Last Titan is over, and even new players? And again, I want you guys to take this all with a grain of salt, but I'm making this video because first off, let's go over a little bit here. You guys know that I've only covered 2 leaks on this channel in the past like 4 months. I really never made many leak videos. And I only covered things that I thought could potentially be true. And I don't really talk about this stuff unless I feel like it's accurate. And to be honest, what I'm hearing, word on the street, I guess I should say, I do feel like this makes sense. And I think that we've kind of buried our head in the sand and been talking about all this stuff that we wanted to see. And I think that ultimately what I'm trying to say is that I know the classic audience, my audience, everyone, all the classic creators, we're expecting this like Classic Plus, right? Or a Classic 2.0. And I don't think that's what we're getting. I think we're actually going to get, example is, look at the video I made 3 days ago where I was talking about Classic Plus probably isn't for everyone. It sits in the middle between retail and vanilla WoW, right? We have hardcore and era. We have retail on the other end. Classic Plus needs to sit somewhere in the middle. And, you know, in my video, I was talking about like maybe we do it like where it's just like a little bit more of a vanilla and a little bit more of like a Wrath style of class design and, you know, exploring the vanilla world and all this stuff. In my head, I'm picturing this all with the classic graphics and models and all of that stuff. But what if Blizzard took it, you know, a step further and it's not Classic 2.0? What if it's more of what I would consider like a vanilla remix, but a standalone game that is ongoing and is going to get developed for 10 plus years? They are, from what I'm hearing, maybe, you know, it all depends, and Kargaz said this really well in his video, how they market this to the player base, right? If they market this as a as a Classic Plus or a Classic 2.0, we're going to be consistently, constantly, I should say, comparing it to vanilla, right? If they market it as a brand new game, then I do think it opens the door for people like even myself who has been expecting a Classic Plus this whole time. If it's marketed as a new game, it kind of opens my mind a little bit and allows me to look at it from a different point of view. If it's a new game, if it's a different thing, I would be pretty interested in giving it a shot and trying it out. But again, I want to let you guys know that I'm always honest with you, brutally honest. I'm not afraid of the comments I'm going to get. I'm someone who, like, I thrive on arguments. You know what I'm trying to say? I'm into it. I don't care. But what I'm getting at is, like, I'm trying to, the things that I've heard, I just feel like are going to really, really take the Classic player base by surprise. If they're true. I don't know if they're true. I've not been in talks with Blizzard. I have no concrete evidence, I should say. Except for what I would consider some pretty reliable sources. And, you could say I've heard it through the grapevine. This is kind of spreading like wildfire. I'm seeing more and more people talk about it in the past 24 hours. And I do think that, I owe it to at least my community to kind of, I don't want to say curb your expectations, because it could exceed your expectations in some ways. But let you know that there is a very big possibility that we don't get what everyone thinks we're going to get, right? And we have to go back and realize here that throughout this entire process, there has never been a single point where Blizzard has stated Classic Plus is coming and it is going to be X, right? It's going to be this. They have never said that. Ever, not once. So, we could sit here and let's say whatever comes out, if it's a new game or if it's a Classic 2.0 or whatever comes out and says, we're like, this is nothing like what we wanted. Well, they never promised us anything to begin with. And if you go back through all my videos over the past 12 months, I've said multiple times that I know we keep getting these hints, but Blizzard has never come out and said what Classic Plus is going to be or anything like that. So for anyone who would potentially feel lied to or betrayed or anything like that, it's not really, they never said it, right? Like we've been in our heads this whole time. We made all this up essentially in hopes that we were getting what we wanted. But when you step back and look at it from their point of view, right? If we wanted something that is massively developed and massively different, it needs to be just that, right? It needs to be something that they can say, you know what, investing all this development time in, investing all these man hours into is worth it. And it's going to appeal to a wider audience. It's going to appeal to a new player base. It's going to appeal to some of the Classic players, but probably not all of them. And I do think this is something that, that if this is all true, a lot of people are going to definitely struggle with this for sure. Myself personally, I'm a big WoW fanboy. No matter what, I'll always give everything a good old college try. You know what I'm saying? And if it's for me, if it's for me. If it's not, it's not. But at the end of the day, it really hits home what I'm hearing, because there is again, I'm going to keep referencing the last video I put out, because I put out that video before I started hearing all of this stuff. And I almost feel like I can't believe I was so close, but so far at the same time with my expectations. If this is all real, I do think that potentially we're going to be getting, and again, this is all speculation based off of what I would consider to be pretty accurate sources. Again, it could be wrong, right? I have not seen visually anything myself. I have not been in contact with Blizzard. I'm not NDA'd or anything like that. This is just through the grapevine of what I'm hearing. And I do feel like I have to, I feel like I've done my due diligence over the last 24 hours before making this video. And I guess I'm confident enough to say all this stuff. But at the same time, again, I could be completely wrong because I have not seen anything with my own eyes. I don't know any concrete information aside from what I'm being told by what I would consider to be credible sources. And I think that people need to brace themselves. I think that people are going to be shocked, but I do think that maybe if it's marketed the right way, this could be pretty huge. I think that, again, like I'm going to keep going back to what Kargas said in his video. He hit home with what he said with, like, if it's marketed as a classic 2.0, people are going to struggle with it. If it's marketed as a new game, you know, I think people will be a lot more open-minded, myself included. And what I do personally think that we are getting for a Classic Plus, like what we've been calling it, is going to be way more along the lines of what I would I guess what I would call maybe a vanilla remix, but its own standalone game with development for years and years to come, and probably expansions and all of that stuff, but set in the vanilla universe with the vanilla lore, and, you know, maybe the Dark Portal not opening and all that stuff that we've kind of been seeing people hint at over the last 12 months. So it all kind of lines up really well. I'm definitely just personally, I'm a little bit torn, right? I don't know what to believe, and I don't know. Part of me wants to sit here and be like, man, it's super tone deaf if we get like retail graphics and models and stuff, because that's like a major deal breaker for a lot of people. You know, we can't unsee and unfeel the bounce, right, of the retail models, and the classic damage numbers and combat. That, to me, I mean, I literally made a full video 3 days ago talking about how important it is for the game to at least feel like classic, right? Like the combat feels completely different in retail, but at the same time, that's me talking about it in a way of calling it a Classic Plus. And if it's not a Classic Plus and it's a new game, then I really have no grounds to complain. They're entitled to make whatever game they want to make. And if it's not marketed as Vanilla 2.0 or Classic Plus, you know, that it is what it is. And I do want to say that also from these sources, I'm hearing that there is zero connection to like anything going on in China. China's stuff is going to be completely separate from ours. Don't know how true that is. I don't know how true any of this is. I just feel like, for me personally, I would consider this reliable stuff. And that's why I'm making a video on it. And that's why I said I haven't made like a million leak videos. I don't really talk about things unless I actually believe them to some extent, which is why I decided to record this video. But I do think it's important to kind of curb people's expectations slightly, my own included, and go into everything with kind of like an open mind. Like, who knows? You know what I mean? Like, if you really sit back and think about this from Blizzard's perspective, how could they possibly develop a game for, like, let's just say on the high end, 500,000 classic players till the end of time, where you know, people are going to drop off and all that stuff? Like, I get it from a business perspective. They want to design a game that appeals to a way wider audience, might be a different audience, but at the end of the day, this really lines up with me. If we look at the previous leak that we all kind of found out was actually real, where we saw the, you know, the franchise slate, where it showed like Camelot, and it showed Wrath of a Lich King coming for Anniversary, and then it showed in 2028 a Vanilla Fresh, and then a TBC after that, and a Wrath after that. So this really does check out, if that leak was true, which we all felt it was probably like 99% true. It checks out that this would be so different from the classic that we're all expecting, because they're going to keep Vanilla, TBC, and Wrath and Hardcore alive pretty much forever. So that would allow them the space to kind of have this sit in between retail and those classic expansions. Not really sure, again, how I fully feel about it at this point in time. Again, I would go into everything with an open mind, especially if it's a new game, which I have reason to believe it is. And I don't know. I'm still very excited for BlizzCon. I'm excited to see what's going on. And I just wanted to kind of make this video to talk to my audience specifically, and let you guys know that there's some stuff out there going around that I want everyone to fully think about it a little bit. And if this stuff is true, just be ready for the fact that it could potentially not be what we've all drummed it up to be. And that's our own fault. We kind of just did this in our own heads, right? The creators and the player base and all this stuff. Blizzard has never promised us anything. Blizzard has never said what they are doing. It's all just been hints and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm going to end this here because I'm just kind of rambling, but let me know how you guys feel about what I just said down in the comments below. Let me know if you've heard anything. And again, take this all with a grain of salt. You know, I'm not speaking truth here that I know to be 100% true. I'm just going off of what I'm hearing through the grapevine of what I would consider reliable sources. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. Follow me over on Twitch, twitch.tv/hammerdance. Subscribe to the channel if you guys love Classic as much as me. But anyways, guys, thank you all so much for watching and listening in. I'll see you all in the next one.